So part of your business plan and part of running a core is building a budget. You're going to need a budget when you request to have an earnings fund, and you're going to have to create a budget every year to submit to the university. So there will be handouts attached when we send you the email. One template's going to be for a 1-year budget, and then one will be for a 5-year budget. And then we'll talk about the budget as it fits into the business plan. So your first year budget, you'll use it for calculating your fees. You want it to include all the costs that's going to cost to run the core. You'll want to make sure it balances. So your revenue, your anticipated revenue in your budget should balance out any anticipated expenses. If it doesn't balance, you'll want to say, how are we going to recover this? If you're overbalancing, or if your budget ends in a huge deficit, are you going to request for subsidy from the university? Or are you going to go back to your department and say, my budget is showing a $50,000 deficit. We're going to need help to cover that. And then this information is usually given, it's all usually taken out of the financial system to kind of help you calculate these things. If you have reports on what you've done in the past, you can use those. So when we do our shared resource budgets, I always give them, here's a blank column. I want you to put in what you think you're going to do for the next year, but here's what you will do for this year based on what you've already expensed and what you are anticipating to expense the rest of the year. So they kind of have numbers to start with. And then you have to report your budgets to the university. So here's a basic, these slides, if you notice, are the same over here. So I'll just move to the Excel document in case we want to type anything in. So you'll list anything in yellow in this budget. Is what you want to fill in. You'll put all of your tech's name here. We'll put Bob. Bless you. And Susan. So put their name. What is their title? If they are full 12-month people, you'll put if they have a 12-month, or if they're they have a different FTE, you'll put the FTE, percent of FTE here. So what percentage, I'm going to move this out of the way, what percentage of this person will be on this fund or this core? And then their salary, So this is separate. This is your budget for the core. This is no longer part of your fees. This is.
You do that for your so that's why we do the per minute thing. So
yeah.
I have 4 different technicians that might make the histology slide, and the supervisor has one price, one salary, and there's the lower tech. So we just document which tech do which function, and then average it based among theirs, and come up with an average time across the board. Because it might take the supervisor 2 minutes to do it. It might take the lower skilled person 20 minutes to do it. So then we just come up with an average.
Yeah, that's for when you're calculating your fees. This is for a budget for the core. The core should be functioning as like a business that has a budget and a plan that goes with how is this business going to run. So you would want all 15 of your techs listed here to show what does it take to run this core? What are the full expenses? So we're now finished with fees. What is the budget for the core? The budget can help you, if you've already done your budget, it'll help you do the fees. So I guess we kind of did it in reverse order. You should really do your budget before you do your fees. So that way you know what you need to build into your fees. So if you have 15 techs, you'd want to list them all here. and insert as many lines as you need to. And you'll, yeah. G, yes. So you'll put in their full, what is their salary right now, and then OSU base salary. What that's going to do is take what is their salary right now, and it's going to add for 2 months. So typically the budget period will start on July 1st of the year. So this budget period will have started July 1st of 2016. So for the first 2 months, they're going to get paid their salary that they're working right now. For the last 10 months of the year, we're building in a 3% possible AMCP increase. And sorry for the nationwide person, you got your fiscal year isn't based on the calendar year. So your budget season just ended. So your budget season would start 1/1/16. So when you're building in your fees, or well, not fees, when you're building your budget, you would change this formula based on when your AMCP or your annual merit increases go in. So you'll just change that.
Just a note, is there a comment at the bottom saying the assumption is
No, but yeah, right here. Sorry. Yeah. So it adds in 3%. Sorry, I can make it a little bigger. So that's what this column does. So then your salary requested takes your OSU base salary multiplied by whatever percentage that person is working on the core. So if the shared resource director only works 25%, and these techs should be on at 100%. Okay, that's what the difference between G and J is it's based, then this salary is based on the percent effort that's on the core. So then it builds in your fringe rate. You'll want to multiply your requested salary by the fringe rates. And we have the fringe rates broken down here. And the fringe rate for your budget will be an aggregate rate based on what is the current rate and what is the anticipated rate for next year. So the formulas pull in from this column, but to determine what that fringe rate should be, you need to put in what are the current fringe rates and what are next year's fringe rates. And then you get the salary requested times the fringe rate, and then it adds those two together to show you what the total is that will be built into your budget. So for this core, we're building in $158,000 in salaries. So then when we scroll down to the next section, so now we've got our salaries filled in. We need to fill in our supplies. You might not use all of these, or you might use all of them, you might not use any of them except for supplies. So we'll build in $150,000 in supplies, $2,000 in travel, our purchase services. I'm trying to remember some of the numbers we used when we did our fee calculation. So you fill in how much you anticipate to spend in the next year on each of these categories. Any questions about that? This is if you're building a core from scratch, this is kind of your best guess on what you think you're going to have to buy. And then earnings. It's really hard to determine earnings if you don't have fees. So it's kind of the chicken and egg, which comes first, especially when if you're doing this from scratch, you've never run a core before, or the core is brand new. So what we typically like to do is try to make everything balance. And then, because we're going to build all of these fees into or all of these supply and expenses into our fees. So theoretically, we should break even. So theoretically, our fees, or our services, our earnings should match our expenses. So if you notice the field here, it's not in yellow. So, and like I said before, only fill in the yellow yellow black boxes. This is going to calculate 5.7% based on what our fees are, or our earnings will be. So it's added that in, and it's added it in as an expense. If we have other subsidies, like if we had a $20,000 subsidy from university or from the CCSG or the CTSA or any other projects, we would list the subsidies here. If we had a deficit or a surplus from last year, we need to build that in here. Okay? So then it brings up, this is where, if everything goes as planned, where we'll end up at the end of the next fiscal year. So this budget is very similar to the budget you would submit to the university every year. And this is what we have to do this every March for all of our cores. And then and this will also be a good budget starting place to put into your business plan. What's also required in the business plan is a 5-year budget, which if you use this template, it'll fill it in for you. So it pulls in the white, all of the information from the previous tab. And then these next years, 5 years out, build in a 3% merit increase for each year. So that's why it increases a little bit. You can change that if you wanted to. You click in the formula, and for the last couple of years, it's been 2%. You can put 2% in there. And then it also builds in a 3% increase on all of your supplies and non-personnel expenses. If you think that's going to change and you're like, we're getting a huge service contract next year, you can increase it in the cell, and then it'll increase in out years. Or you can just type over them if you want to just project your own and not use a 3% increase. If you are going to build in a depreciation expense, you can add it here. If you're going to buy a piece of equipment, we wouldn't put the equipment on the budget here because it's not going to get paid for with core money. So the budget, that's going to be somewhere else in another budget for another piece of operations. But the depreciation expense can be built here. So if I know in year 4 we're going to get a $500,000 piece of equipment, I can start building in depreciation expenses in year 4 and 5. And so
Maybe you're going to buy new equipment in year 2, and so maybe you're going to have increased number of samples from it. So you're going to need a 10 year 4.
yep. So yeah, you can build out. So a TBD or TBD in year 4, we're going to need another tech. And then you can add people and add staff later on. And then earnings, you'd want to fill in your earnings. Oops. So I just added a bunch of different numbers. Because for example, if we were going to build 400,000 here, but then like Krista said, we're anticipating something to happen. We know a new faculty recruit's coming. We're anticipating more samples. It's going to increase our income. But you would also reflect that a new faculty increase. Our supplies should probably have also gone up. So it'll break down here where you should be breaking even. So right now we're not doing very good in our 5-year budget plan, but does everyone get the point? So the 5-year budget plan is for you to really think about what is coming down the line. Are there new PIs coming? Is there a new piece of equipment coming? What are we planning to do for the future of our core? Which not only will be represented in the budget, it'll also be represented in the business plan. Does anyone have any questions about the budget? And we can go into the business plan.
One quick question. So I think your current source of income, how are you anticipating future income?
Oh, sources of income. So that would be based on our fees. That's how much money we're planning on bringing in. So through earnings, right? So we're expecting to bill and recover $400,000 of our services. How did I come up with that? So if I look back here at my first budget, based on my personnel expenses and my non-personnel expenses, that's going to total is about $556,000. the object of the core is to break even. We can't make money. So I'm expecting to bill, if this is my first time ever creating a budget for the core, I'm expecting to bill at least what my expenses are. So that's where I came up with $360,000. So then when you go to the 5-year budget, the $360,000 is there. I should be basing like the $400,000 on what I'm now anticipating to happen in year 2. In year 2, everyone got a merit increase. In year 2, I'm thinking my expenses are going to increase. And so then my income should also increase. You can do it. If you just set everything and let everything run with a 3% increase, you can also put the 3% increase down there. And as long as you're breaking even on year 1's budget, you'll break even through the rest of the years.
And year 1's kind of hope.
Hope. Yeah, if this is your first year of the core, it is a guess. You'll know better in year 2 if anything that you talked about in year 1 or 5 or your 1 or 5-year budget will come true or not. It's kind of like a fairy tale. So 5-year budget, you'll want it in your business plan, include all the costs to run the core. It's helpful when you're asking people for money that you have a plan in place. It's helping for setting up MOUs. If you know you need money from another department and writing an MOU or writing a retention plan for your director, it really helps if you know what the plan is of the core. And then so that's the 5-year budget we just went over. And then some resources. So Scott Gill for taxes, Amy Weisbach, she's with the Office of Business and Finance. She's great. She actually is working on new earnings guidelines for the cores, which will be really helpful. And then if you have any other general questions about earnings operations at the university, you can email this bf-earnings@osu.edu, and she has a team of people who can help answer questions. And then here are some other resources. Again, you're going to get these slides. You'll have access to all of these. So summary of recharge rates by NIH. What is program income? We kind of went over that a little bit last time. And then tools to help with the complex calculations. Northwestern, it'll take you to instructions for that template, but we have the instructions in a PDF that you will get. And then just another resource from other cores at other universities on how they create their recharge rates and their fees and services.